The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species. Its walls stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed near the ceiling. Lights from 1,000 worlds floated in the air like stars. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy sat in their assigned seats, arranged in a perfect circle around a central platform. On this day, the hall was full. Every seat was taken. Every eye was watching. Ambassador Hannah Yoon stood alone on the central platform. She was a small woman with short black hair and calm eyes. She wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. No decorations, no medals. Just the small blue flag of humanity on her shoulder. Around her, the alien representatives whispered to each other. Some laughed quietly. Others shook their heads. A few looked bored. High Arbiter Volos sat on the highest seat in the chamber. He was the leader of the Galactic Council, a position he had held for 200 years. His body was covered in silver scales, and his eyes were like two black stones. He looked down at Hannah, the way a person might look at an insect. Ambassador Yoon Volos said, his voice echoing through the hall. You have requested to speak. The council has given you 5 minutes. Use them wisely. She did not bow. She simply looked up at Volos and began to speak. 3 days ago, this council voted to give 3 human colony worlds to the Valari Empire. These worlds are home to 40 million. Human beings, families, children, workers, dreamers. You gave them away like old furniture. The Valari representative, a tall creature with 4 arms and blue skin, made a sound like laughter. Those worlds are in Valari space. They always belong to us. Hannah continued as if she had not heard him. Humanity was not informed of this vote. We were not invited to discuss it. We learned about it from news reports. 40 million of our people, and you did not even tell us. Volos waved one of his clawed hands. The council makes decisions for the good of the galaxy. We cannot consult every minor species on every matter. Minor species, Hannah repeated. The words hung in the air. She turned slowly, looking at each section of the chamber. Her voice remained calm, but something in it had changed. It was harder now. Colder. For 300 years, humanity has been part of this council. In that time, we have given everything we had. When the Drathi plague killed millions, human doctors found the cure. When the Korra communication network failed, human engineers rebuilt it. When the Shadow War threatened to destroy half the galaxy, human soldiers died fighting enemies that were not even ours. She paused. The chamber was silent now. No one was laughing. We asked for nothing in return. We only wanted to be treated as equals. To have a voice. To be respected. She looked directly at Volos. Instead, you gave away our worlds. Our people. Our future. Without even speaking to us. Volos leaned forward. His black eyes showed nothing. No guilt. No concern. No fear. You humans are young. You have been in space for only a few centuries. The Valari have been here for 10,000 years. The Korra for 20,000. You must learn patience. You must learn your place. Our place, Hannah said. Yes, you are guests in this galaxy. Be grateful we allow you a seat at all. In the corner of the chamber, Elder Thal of the Korra closed his ancient eyes. He was older than anyone in the room, older than most buildings on most worlds. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species grow from nothing to greatness. And right now, watching this small human woman stand alone against the most powerful beings in the galaxy, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. Hannah reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. It was no bigger than a coin. She pressed it once, and a soft blue light blinked. What is that? Volos demanded. A message, Hannah said. To Earth, 2 words. Protocol, sunrise. Volos looked confused. What does that mean? Hannah smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a decision long ago and was finally at peace with it. It means goodbye. She straightened her uniform and spoke clearly, her voice reaching every corner of the vast chamber. Effective immediately, the United Earth Federation withdraws from the Galactic Council. All treaties are cancelled. All agreements are void. All human citizens in Council space will return home within 30 standard days. The chamber exploded with noise. Representatives shouted. Some stood up. Others called for guards. Volos slammed his hand on his seat, demanding order, but Hannah was already walking toward the exit. She did not run. She did not hurry. She walked with the steady pace of someone who had finished their work and was going home. The Valari representative blocked her path. He towered over her, his forearms spread wide. You cannot do this. You are nothing without the council. You will starve. You will fall. You will come crawling back. Hannah looked up at him. Perhaps, she said. Or perhaps you will discover that you needed us more than we needed you. She walked around him and continued toward the door. Elder Thal watched her go. His hearts were beating fast. He turned to look at the chaos around him, the shouting, the confusion, the anger, and he understood something terrible. The council had made a mistake. A very great mistake. Hannah Yun stepped through the doors of the Great Hall and never looked back. Behind her, the galaxy she had known was already beginning to change. Ahead of her, the stars waited. On 1,000 worlds, humans received the same message. Pack your things. Say your goodbyes. Come home, and across the cold darkness of space. 40 million people on 3 forgotten colonies looked up at the sky and wondered if anyone remembered them. Someone did. The first week after humanity left, the Galactic Council treated it as a joke. High Arbiter Volos gave speeches about how the humans would return soon, begging for forgiveness. The news channels across Council space laughed at Earth's foolishness. How could such a young species survive alone? By the second week, no one was laughing. It started with small things. A space station near the Drathi homeworld lost power. The backup systems failed. The emergency systems failed too. Engineers rushed to fix the problem, but they could not understand the technology. A human company had built that station. Human engineers had maintained it for 80 years. Now those engineers were gone, and no one knew how to replace them. Trademaster Kino stood in his office on the Drathi capital world, staring at reports that made his blood run cold. The Drathi were merchants. They bought and sold everything. They were rich beyond imagination, but they produced almost nothing themselves. 60% of their food came from human farms. 70% of their medicine came from human factories. 80% of their luxury goods, the clothes, the electronics, the art, all of it came from human hands. And now the human ships had stopped coming. How long do we have? Kinos asked his assistant. At current consumption, our food supplies will last for months. Medicine perhaps too. After that? The assistant could not finish the sentence. Kino sat down heavily. In all his years of trading, he had never worried about survival. The Drathi were too rich to fail. But wealth meant nothing if there was nothing to buy. On the other side of Council space, the Valari were having different problems. Commander Reth stood on the bridge of his warship. Watching his fleet approach the 3 human colony worlds, this would be easy, he thought. The humans had no real military presence in this sector. They would surrender without a fight, and the Valari would claim their prize. The first sign of trouble came when his sensors detected ships. Human ships. Not the small cargo vessels he expected, but warships. Dozens of them, arranged in a perfect defensive formation around the colonies. Where did they come from? Reth demanded. His officers had no answer. According to Council intelligence, the humans had only a small defense force. Nothing that could challenge the Valari fleet. But the ships on his screen were not small. They were large, fast, and covered with weapons his scanners could not identify. A communication signal came through. Reth opened the channel. A human face appeared on his screen. The man was young, with sharp eyes and a calm expression. He wore a black flight suit with a falcon symbol on the chest. I am Captain Taeon Kung, of the Black Falcon Squadron, the human said. You are approaching Earth territory. Turn your ships around and leave. This is your only warning, Reth laughed. One warning? How generous. But I have 200 warships, human. You have perhaps 50. Do you really think you can stop us? Captain Kong did not smile. He did not threaten. He simply said, yes. Battle began 12 minutes later. It ended for hours after that. When it was over, not a single Valari ship remained. 200 warships, the pride of the Valari fleet, destroyed completely. The humans lost 7 ships, Commander Reth. survived only because his escape pod launched automatically when his flagship exploded. He floated in space for 6 hours before a human ship picked him up. They gave him food, water, and medical care. Then they sent him home with a message for the Valari Emperor. Stay away from our people.
Oh.
The news of the battle spread across the galaxy like fire. Council species who had laughed at humanity suddenly fell silent. Military commanders studied the battle footage again and again, trying to understand what had happened. The humans had not fought like anyone expected. They did not form neat lines. They did not follow predictable patterns. They attacked from every direction at once, striking weak points with impossible precision. Their weapons were faster, stronger, and more accurate than anything the Valari had ever seen. And the worst part? The humans had not even used their full strength. Intelligence reports suggested that the Black Falcon Squadron was just one of dozens of human military units. The real Earth fleet was much larger. On the council station, High Arbiter Volos refused to believe the reports. It must be a trick, he insisted. The humans are primitive. They cannot have such technology. Elderthal spoke quietly from his seat. With respect, High Arbiter, the humans have been part of the council for 300 years. In that time, we gave them access to all our knowledge, all our science, all our history. We thought we were teaching them. Perhaps they were learning more than we realized. Avolos waved his hand dismissively. They are still weak. They are emotional. They are divided. They will collapse without us. But even as he spoke, more bad news arrived. The quantum communication network. The system that connected all council worlds was failing. Entire sectors were going dark. Messages that once took seconds now took days. Trade routes became confused. Ships got lost. The network had been designed by a human scientist named Dr. Subin Lee. She had built it 20 years ago, and she had maintained it ever since. Now she was gone, back on Earth, and no one else understood how the system worked. One by one, the things that held the galaxy together began to fall apart. On Earth, Admiral Minho Park watched the reports from his command center. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the Earth fleet for 40 years. He had hoped to retire in peace. Instead, he was preparing for war. How were the colonies? He asked. Safe, his aide reported. Captain Kong's defense was successful. The Valari are retreating. Minho nodded slowly. And the exodus? 90% complete. Almost all human citizens have returned from council space. The remaining 10% will be home within the week. Good. Minho looked at the star map on his screen. Thousands of lights representing human worlds, human stations, human ships, all of them coming together. All of them preparing for whatever came next. It will attack us, Minho said quietly. Not today. Not tomorrow. But soon. They cannot let us leave. If we succeed, others will follow. The council will fall apart. His aide looked worried. Can we win? Admiral Minho Park thought about the question for a long moment. He thought about the ships his people had built, the weapons they had invented, the soldiers who would fight and die for their home. He thought about 300 years of insults, 300 years of patience, 300 years of waiting. Yes, he said finally. We can win, but I hope we do not have to. Outside his window, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was watching, waiting, wondering what humanity would do next. They would not have to wait long. Trademaster Kinos had never begged for anything in his life. The Drathi were proud people. They built their empire on clever deals and smart trades. They did not bow. They did not plead. They negotiated, but as he stood at the human border station waiting to meet Admiral Minho Park, Kinos felt something new. It's desperation. His people were dying. The food shortages had become famines. The medicine shortages had become plagues. Children were getting sick, and there was nothing to help them. Old people were starving, and there was nothing to feed them. The great Drathi trading empire, which had lasted for 5,000 years, was falling apart in weeks. The council had promised to help. High Arbiter Volos had made speeches about unity and support, but no help came. The other species had their own problems. Everyone was struggling. No one had anything to spare, so Kinos came to the humans alone, in secret. with nothing to offer but the truth. The border station was small and plain, no decorations, no grand halls, just metal walls and simple lights. Human soldiers stood guard at every door. They were polite but careful. They searched Kino's 3 times before letting him pass. Admiral Minho Park waited in a small meeting room. He sat at a simple table with a cup of tea in front of him. He did not stand when Kino's entered. He did not smile. He simply watched with eyes that seemed to see everything. "Trademaster," Minho said. "Please sit." Kino sat across from him. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence was heavy. Finally, Kino said, "You know why I am here?" "Yes, my people are suffering." "Yes," Kino's felt anger rise in his chest. "You could help us. You have food. You have medicine. You have everything we need. Why do you let us suffer?" Minho took a slow sip of his tea. His face showed nothing. 3 weeks ago, your representative in the council voted to give away 40 million of my people. Like property. Like objects. Did you think about their suffering then? Kinos opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. What could he say? The Admiral was right. I did not vote for that, Kino said quietly. The Drothi did not want it. But the council decided, and we followed. Minho repeated. You always follow. For 300 years, you followed while the council treated humanity like servants. You watched. You said nothing. And now you want our help? Kinos felt shame burn in his stomach. It was an unfamiliar feeling. He did not like it. What do you want? Kinos asked. Tell me your price. The Drothi will pay anything. Admiral Minho set down his tea. He looked at Kinos with those deep, tired eyes. I do not want payment, Trademaster. I want recognition. I want respect. I want the galaxy to see humanity as equals, not as children to be managed. You have proven yourselves, Kino said quickly. The battle with the Valari, the technology you have shown, everyone knows now that humanity is strong. Strength is not respect, Minho said. Fear is not friendship. I do not want the galaxy to be afraid of us. I want them to work with us, to trade fairly, to treat our people with dignity. Kinos leaned forward. Then let us start now. The Drothi will recognize humanity. We will trade fairly. We will support you in any new government that forms. Just help us survive. Minho studied him for a long moment. And the council? We will leave them, Kino said. The words came out faster than he expected. The Drothi will withdraw. We will sign treaties with Earth, exclusive trade agreements, defense agreements, whatever you want. It was a massive offer. The Drothi leaving the council would be the first crack in an alliance that had lasted for thousands of years. Others would follow. The whole system could collapse. Admiral Minho seemed to understand this. He nodded slowly. I will speak with my government. If they agree, we will send food and medicine within 3 days. Kinos felt tears in his eyes. Tears. He had not cried since he was a child. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you. Minho stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars filled the darkness. Do not thank me yet, Trademaster. This is only the beginning. The council will not let us go peacefully. War is coming. The Drothi do not have a strong military, Kinos admitted. But we have money. We have resources. We can support your war effort. I do not want war, Minho said quietly. I have seen too much death already. But I will protect my people. Whatever it takes. 3 days later, human ships arrived at the Drothi homeworld. They carried enough food to feed millions. They carried medicine that saved thousands of lives. They asked for nothing in return except one thing, public announcement. Trademaster Kino stood before the cameras and spoke to the entire galaxy. The Drothi Merchant Coalition hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council. We recognize the United Earth Federation as our equal partner and ally. We call on other species to do the same. The announcement hit the council like a bomb. High Arbiter Volos screamed at his advisors for hours. How could this happen? The Drothi were one of the oldest members of the council. Their trade networks connected everything. Without them, the council economy would suffer badly, but worse news was coming. Within a week, 3 more species announced they were leaving the council. Two others began secret talks with Earth. The cracks were spreading. Elder Thal stood before the council one final time. His ancient body was weak, but his voice was strong. "I warned you," he said to Volos. "I told you that the humans were not like other young species. They are patient, but they have limits. They are peaceful, but they are not weak. You pushed them too far. You took too much. And now, we all pay the price." Volos pointed a clawed finger at Thal. "You speak like a human lover. Perhaps you should join them." "Perhaps I will," Thal said calmly. "Perhaps many of us will. Because the truth is clear now, High Arbiter. The humans do not need us. They never did. But we need them. And we were too blind to see it." He turned and walked out of the chamber. That night, Volos called an emergency meeting of the remaining council military commanders. They gathered in a secure room away from cameras and spies. "We must act now," Volos said. "Before more species leave? Before the council falls apart completely." "What do you suggest?" asked Devellery General. Volos smiled coldly. "We gather every ship we have, every weapon, every soldier, and we crush the humans before they grow any stronger." The commanders looked at each other nervously. After what happened to the Villari fleet, no one was eager to fight the humans, but Volos was the High Arbiter. His word was law, and so the order went out. Every loyal council species was to send their warships. They would form the largest fleet in galactic history. They would destroy humanity once and for all. On Earth, General Unicho received the intelligence reports. She read them twice, then called Admiral Minho. "They are coming," she said. 2,000 ships, maybe more. Minho closed his eyes for a moment. He had hoped it would not come to this. But hope was not a strategy, and we will be ready, he said. Across human space, the call went out. Every ship, every soldier, every pilot. The time for waiting was over. The war was about to begin. The Council fleet was a sight that had never been seen before. 2,000 warships from 6 different species, stretching across space like a river of steel and fire. Massive battleships the size of small moons. Fast attack cruisers with weapons that could burn through planets. Carrier ships holding hundreds of smaller fighters, all of them moving together toward human space. High Arbiter Volos watched from his command ship, the largest vessel in the fleet. He stood at the center of a massive bridge, surrounded by officers from a dozen worlds. Screens showed him every ship, every weapon, every piece of his unstoppable army. This was power. Real power. The kind of power that built empires and crushed rebellions. The kind of power that reminded young species where they belonged. "How long until we reach the human border?" Volos asked. 6 hours, his navigation officer reported. Their main fleet has gathered near the 3rd planet of the Sol system. They are outnumbered 4-1. Volos smiled. "Good. Send a message to the human admiral. Tell him to surrender. If they give up now, we will be merciful. If they fight, we will destroy everything." The message was sent. For 30 minutes, there was no response. Then, finally, a signal came back. Admiral Minho Park's face appeared on Volos's screen. The human looked tired, old. His gray hair was messy, and his eyes had dark circles under them. But his voice was steady. "Hi, Arbiter," Minho said. "I received your message. I have one for you in return." "Speak," Volos said impatiently. 8 turned back. "This is your only warning." Volos laughed. His officers laughed with him. The sound echoed through the bridge like thunder. "Only warning?" Volos shook his head. "Look at my fleet, human. Look at what stands before you. You have 500 ships against my 2,000. You have no allies, no support, no hope. And yet you threaten me." Admiral Minho did not react to the laughter. He simply waited until it stopped. "I will say it once more," Minho said. "Turn back. Go home. Let us build peace instead of graves. This does not have to end in death. It will end in your death," Volos snarled. "Prepare to die, human." The communication ended. Volos turned to his commanders. "All ships, advance. Destroy them." The Council fleet moved forward. 2,000 ships crossing the darkness of space toward the small human defensive line. On paper, on every simulation, on every calculation, this should have been easy. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded. But war is not fought on paper. Captain Tian Kong sat in the cockpit of his fighter, floating at the front of the human formation. Around him, the pilots of the Black Falcon Squadron waited in silence. They had trained for years for a moment like this. They had run thousands of simulations. They were ready. All pilots, check in, Taehan said calmly. One by one, his squadron responded. 40 voices, all steady, all prepared. Remember your training, Taehan said. Remember why we fight. Not for glory, not for revenge, for our families, for our homes, for everyone who ever looked at the stars and dreamed of being free. He paused. Outside his window, the council fleet grew larger with every second. So many ships, so many enemies. Today we show them what humanity really is, Taehan said. Today, we fight. And today we win. The battle began at exactly 14 o'clock. Earth time, it lasted 17 minutes. The humans did not fight the way the council expected. They did not form lines. They did not charge forward in neat formations. Instead, they scattered like leaves in wind, then came together like a fist. Dr. Subin Lee had spent 10 years developing new weapons for this day. Gravity wells that created small black holes, crushing ships that flew too close. Electromagnetic storms that shut down electronics across entire fleets. Missiles that moved faster than light, peering inside enemy ships before anyone could react. The Council fleet never had a chance. In the first minute, 50 Council ships exploded. In the second minute, 100 more. By the fifth minute, the Council formation had broken apart completely. Ships fled in every direction, crashing into each other, spinning out of control. Burning in the cold darkness of space, Captain Tian Kong led his squadron directly at the command ships. His fighters moved in patterns the Council pilots could not understand or predict. They appeared from nowhere, struck with perfect precision, and disappeared before anyone could target them. Valas's flagship was the largest ship in the battle. It had weapons that could destroy cities, shields that could survive nuclear explosions. A crew of 10,000 soldiers. It took Taehan's squadron 7 minutes to destroy it. The first strike disabled the shields. The second destroyed the engines. The third, fourth, and fifth opened holes in the hull. The sixth hit the main reactor. When the flagship exploded, the light was visible across 3 star systems. But Volos was not dead. His escape pod launched automatically, throwing him into space as his ship died around him. He floated in the wreckage of his fleet, surrounded by the burning remains of 2,000 ships. 2,000 ships. Destroyed in 17 minutes. The battle would be studied for centuries. Military academies across the galaxy would analyze every second, trying to understand what happened. How had such a small force destroyed such a large one? How had the humans known exactly where to strike, exactly when to move, exactly how to win? The answer was simple. Humanity had been preparing for 300 years. Every insult, every rejection, every moment of disrespect had taught them something. While the Council laughed at humans, humans were learning. While the Council ignored them, humans were building. While the Council treated them like children, humans were growing into something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that refused to be controlled. A species that refused to be ignored. A species that would rather burn than bow. Admiral Minho Park watched the battle from his command center. His hands were shaking. So much death. So much destruction. This was not what he wanted. This was never what he wanted, but it was necessary. Find Volos, Minho ordered. Find him and bring him to me. Alive. Search ships spread through the wreckage. Hours later, they found the escape pod. The High Arbiter was inside, unconscious, but breathing. They brought him back to the human flagship in chains. When Volos woke up, he was sitting in a simple chair in a simple room. His chains were strong, but not painful. A glass of water sat on the table in front of him. Ambassador Hannah Yoon stood across from him, her arms folded. You should have listened, she said quietly. Volos stared at her with hatred in his black eyes. You will pay for this. The Council will never stop hunting you. We will destroy every human world. We will erase your species from history. Hana shook her head. The council is finished. Volos, your fleet is gone. Your allies are leaving. There is nothing left to save. She turned and walked to the door. Before she left, she looked back at him one more time. We never wanted this war. We asked only for respect. You refused. Now your empire is ash, and humanity still stands. She paused. I hope whoever replaces you learns from your mistakes. The door closed behind her, leaving Volos alone with his defeat. Outside, the stars continued to shine. The universe did not care about empires or wars or pride. It simply continued, cold and beautiful, waiting to see what would happen next. And across 1,000 worlds, people looked up at the sky and whispered a new word: hope. 6 months had passed since the battle. 6 months of negotiations, agreements, and careful rebuilding. The galaxy was different now. Everything had changed. The Treaty of New Sol was signed on a space station orbiting Earth. Representatives from 47 species gathered in a great hall that looked nothing like the old council chamber. There were no high seats, no rankings, no one looking down at anyone else. Instead, everyone sat at the same level, around a circular table that had room for all. Admiral Minho Park stood at the window, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. So many species, coming together not because they were forced, but because they chose to. It was beautiful in a way he had never expected. You should be inside, a voice said behind him. He turned to see General Unicho walking toward him. She wore a simple dress instead of her uniform. Her hair, usually tied back tight, hung loose around her shoulders. She looked younger, happier. I needed a moment, Minho admitted. It is hard to believe this is real. Yuna stood beside him and looked at the stars. I know, sometimes I wake up and think the war is still coming. Then, I remember it is over. Is it over? Minho asked. There are still species who refuse to join. Still, leaders who hate us. Still dangers out there. There always will be, Yuna said. But that is not the point. The point is that we tried something different. We built something new. We showed the galaxy that there is another way. Minho nodded slowly. She was right. They could not control the future. They could only plant seeds and hope they grew inside the Great Hall. Ambassador Hannah Yoon stood before the assembled representatives. She had changed in the past months. The calm, quiet diplomat was gone. In her place stood a leader, confident and strong, with a voice that filled every corner of the room. Today we create something that has never existed before, Hannah said. Not a council where some rule over others, not an empire where the strong crush the weak, but an assembly where every voice matters, where every species has equal standing, where decisions are made together by all of us. She looked around the room. She saw Trade Master Kinos of the Drothi, smiling for the first time in months. She saw Commander Reth of the Valari, who had spoken publicly about the mistakes of the past and the need for change. She saw Elder Thal of the Korra, whose ancient eyes were filled with tears. We will not pretend the past did not happen, Hannah continued. We will not forget the pain, the injustice, the death. But we will not let it define our future. We will learn from it. We will grow beyond it. And we will build something better. She held up a document, its pages filled with words that had taken months to write. Words about trade and defense and cooperation. Words about rights and responsibilities. Words about what it meant to be part of a galaxy that chose peace over war. This treaty creates the Interstellar Assembly. Every species that signs agrees to treat all others as equals. No more rankings. No more special privileges. Just cooperation, respect, and mutual benefit. One by one, the representatives came forward to sign. The Drothi signed first, then the Korra, then species that had been enemies for thousands of years. Even the Valari signed, their representative bowing his head in apology before adding his name. When it was done, Anna looked at the document. 47 signatures. 47 species choosing to work together instead of fighting. It was not perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was a start. Outside the station, Captain Taeon Kang floated in his fighter. He was supposed to be on patrol, watching for threats, but there was nothing to watch for today. Just peace. Just stars. Just the endless beauty of the universe. Captain, his radio crackled. The ceremony is ending. Ambassador Yoon wants you to come inside. Theon smiled. Tell her, I will be there soon. I just want to enjoy the view for a moment longer. He turned off the radio and looked out at the galaxy. So many stars, so many worlds, so many possibilities. For the first time in his life, he felt like the future was something to look forward to. It's not something to fear. In the station's medical bay, Dr. Subin Lee was talking with a group of alien scientists. They wanted to learn about human technology. Not to steal it or copy it, but to understand it. To work together on new discoveries. The quantum communication network can be rebuilt, Subin explained. But this time, we build it together. All of us. So that no one controls it. So that it belongs to everyone. The alien scientists nodded eagerly. One of them, a young Korra, asked a question about energy efficiency. Subin answered, then asked a question of her own about Korra mathematics. Soon they were deep in conversation, sharing ideas that had never been shared before. This was what the future looked like. Not war. Not fear. Just curious minds working together to understand the universe. In a quiet room on the station, Elder Thal sat writing his memoirs. His hands were old and slow, but his mind was sharp. He wanted to record everything that had happened, everything he had learned, so that future generations would understand. We feared humans because they were different, he wrote. They were emotional where we were calm. They were unpredictable where we were ordered. They were stubborn where we were flexible. We thought these were weaknesses. We were fools. He paused, thinking about the right words. Their emotions gave them passion. Their unpredictability made them creative. And their stubbornness, it made them unbreakable. When we pushed them down, they got back up. When we tried to crush them, they grew stronger. When we told them they were nothing, they showed us they were everything. He looked out the window at the stars. The humans did not conquer us. They did not enslave us. They did not take revenge for 300 years of disrespect. Instead, they offered us their hand and asked us to walk beside them. That is not weakness. That is strength. The truest strength I have ever seen. He smiled and continued writing. 1 year later, the Interstellar Assembly held its first anniversary celebration. Representatives from every member species gathered on a beautiful planet with blue skies and green fields. There were speeches and music and food from 100 worlds. Ambassador Hannah Yoon, now President Hannah Yoon of the Assembly, stood on a small stage and addressed the crowd. 1 year ago, humanity left the Galactic Council. We were called foolish, reckless, doomed. They said we would fail. They said we would come crawling back. She smiled. We did not fail. We did not crawl. Instead, we built something new, something better, and we did not do it alone. We did it together, with all of you. She raised her glass. To the future. May it be brighter than the past? Across the field, Admiral Minho Park sat with General Yuna, Cho, and Trademaster Kinos. They watched the celebration with quiet satisfaction. What will you do now? Kinos asked Minho. The war is over. The assembly is established. You could retire. Minho shook his head. There is still work to do. New threats will come. New challenges. But I think I will take a vacation first. I have not seen Earth's oceans in 20 years. Yuna laughed. You have earned it. Captain Taeyon Kong walked past them, holding hands with a young pilot from his squadron. They were laughing about something, their faces bright with happiness. Dr. Subin Lee sat under a tree, explaining something complicated to a group of children from 4 different species. They listened with wide eyes, amazed by the wonders she described. Elder Thal watched it all from a distance. His hearts were full. He had lived for a very long time. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species destroy themselves and each other. But he had never seen anything like this. Hope. Real hope. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy had hope, and at the center of it all were the humans. Small, young, emotional, stubborn humans. They had refused to be invisible. They had refused to be ignored. And in doing so, they had changed everything. As the sun set on that beautiful world, Casting golden light across the celebration, Hannah Yoon looked up at the darkening sky. Stars were beginning to appear one by one, like old friends saying hello. "We made it," she whispered to herself. "We actually made it." Somewhere out there, among those countless stars, the future was waiting. It would bring new challenges, new dangers, new adventures. But it would also bring new friends, new discoveries, and new reasons to hope. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate humanity. Never push them too far. Never assume they will stay down, because when humans fall, they get back up. When humans are hurt, they heal. And when humans decide to fight for something, they never ever stop. The stars had never looked brighter.